The experiments that worked too well then were shut down. History loves to talk about experiments that failed, the inventions that didn't work, the ideas that collapsed, the projects that ran out of money, companies that were run by morons. But there's another category that almost never gets discussed: experiments that succeeded. Not modestly, not partially, but too well. Because sometimes failure isn't the danger. Sometimes the danger is what happens when something works exactly as promised. In the mid-20th century, a series of agricultural test plots began producing results that didn't make sense. Yields increased dramatically, soil depletion slowed, inputs dropped. In some cases, farms using these methods produced more food with less fertilizer, less equipment, and less dependency on external supply chains. They preserved fungal networks, mycorrhizae, avoided deep tilling that breaks microbial layers, fed microbes, not plants. At first, the results were celebrated. Yay, woohoo, we're celebrating. Then the tone changed. Reports began calling the methods inconsistent. Funding was redirected. Replication trials were quietly cancelled. The explanation was always technical, too variable, not scalable, too icky, unsuitable for national rollout. But the numbers told a different story. These methods didn't fail. They removed scarcity from the equation. And when food becomes abundant without centralized control, entire industries lose leverage. Because feeding people was never the problem. Controlling access was. Subscribe to ChronoVault. During the Cold War, governments poured money into understanding human behavior. Not philosophy, not theory, prediction. Researchers discovered something uncomfortable. Under controlled conditions, human responses became reliable. Habits formed faster than expected. Choices could be guided with minimal intervention. Large groups responded to identical stimuli in near-identical ways. At first, this was considered a breakthrough. Then the whiny ethical alarms began ringing. Because if behavior could be predicted, it could be shaped. And if it could be shaped, someone would use it. Whoopity-doo. Officially, many of these programs were terminated. Unofficially, the research didn't disappear like your dad. It changed names. It moved into advertising, interface design, engagement metrics, and behavioral economics. The science wasn't buried. The credit was. Subscribe to ChronoVault. In multiple countries, experimental energy systems were tested with one shared goal: local power, minimal maintenance, no constant fuel dependency. Okay, I guess it was 3 goals, and some of them worked. Too well. These systems didn't require massive infrastructure. They didn't demand monthly billing models. They didn't scale upward, they scaled outward. Which was the problem? Centralized grids rely on dependency. Revenue relies on repeat consumption. Control relies on choke points. Energy that anyone could maintain quietly removed all 3. The official verdict was always the same: not economically viable, too niche, too nerdy, not worth investment. But not profitable doesn't mean not effective. It just means the system can't extract value from it. Subscribe to ChronoVault. Several education pilots tried something radical. They removed rigid hierarchies. They reduced standardized pacing. They treated students as self-directed learners instead of passive recipients. The results were shocking. Students learned faster. Retention improved. Independent problem-solving skyrocketed. People were less stupid. Teachers became guides, not authorities. Credentials became less important than competence. And that's when the resistance began. Because education systems aren't just about learning, they're about certification. Standardization, gatekeeping. When students no longer need the institution to validate them, the institution loses its purpose. So the programs were labeled unsustainable, overblown, too easy, just like your mom. Not because students failed, but because the system did. Subscribe to ChronoVault. Late 20th century, a simple test. Treat distribution as infrastructure, not profit. Move existing goods cleanly, not make more. Layers collapsed. Local producers fed regional hubs. Hubs served communities directly. Open inventories replaced competition. Shortages started behaving differently. Supply flexed with demand. Waste dropped. Prices leveled. Stockouts faded. Speculation failed because information flowed. Biggest outcome wasn't efficiency, it was resilience. Under pressure, the system adapted. Scarcity often came from layers. Reports raised incentive concerns, not feasibility. Transparency offered no easy extraction or bottlenecks, so the language shifted. The model was labeled administratively heavy, just like your mom. Difficult to scale and unsuitable for competitive markets. Funding shifted, pilots reverted, middle layers returned, and with them, shortages. Subscribe to ChronoVault. History remembers failure because it's safe. Failure reinforces the idea that nothing better was possible. But success, real success? Success asks uncomfortable questions. What else worked? What else was buried? And what are we still being told is impossible, simply because it works too well? This is ChronoVault, where history isn't just about what was lost, but about what was deliberately set aside. If this made you uncomfortable, subscribe. Also, subscribe if it makes you comfortable. You can even subscribe if you didn't give a crap.